Welcome back to another tip. I'm changing my tune a little bit today. Instead of giving a speaking tip, I'm giving what's called a living tip or a life tip. My last speaking tip, I talked about finding the purpose in your message. And when you do, you light up. And I got a ton of email coming back in, people going, how do you do that? I've been trying to do that. And this takes me off the path of speaking a little bit. So I actually want to phrase this more of a life or a living tip. And I'm going to share with you what I've done and see if that is helpful to you. And you're going to get a little bit of the philosophy of Lance today, sort of where I come from. Now, there's a book that I refer to when I want to understand different concepts in life, and it has a complete history of the principles that mankind lives by, where those principles were developed, the meaning of those principles, and how they interact with mankind. Now, that would be a pretty valuable book. And the book is, I have it right here, it's called The Dictionary. Every word in the dictionary at one point did not exist. And thousands of years ago, mankind decided to give a concept that they were dealing with a specific tag or a title. And it had a specific meaning, but the concept was here, and they put a tag on it, which was the word that represents that. So I'm going to start off today. We're going to talk about putting purpose into your messages. So we're going to talk about purpose, but I can't talk about purpose without giving a broader scale of how that relates to life. So with that, today, believe it or not, you're going to learn the meaning of life. It's a question that people have asked themselves for the ages. People have searched mountaintops and deserts and talked to gurus and traveled the world and studied intently to find the meaning of life. I got news for you. It's in the dictionary. Now, you may think I'm joking, but it's not, or I'm not. It is in the dictionary. Now, I'm not going to take you on the 2 or 3 hours I spent digging through the dictionary and pulling it together to give you what I came up with my meaning of life was. I am going to give you a couple of highlights. There's a definition of life that is the organic existence from birth to death, and that is a biological definition of life. The time that blood is coursing through our veins and our body is living, but it's really not an emotional or a spiritual existence of life, or excuse me, meaning of life, which is what most people are looking for. They understand that they're alive, they can feel things, but they don't feel fulfilled by life. And so we look at some other definitions. Another definition is the length of time that something can fulfill its purpose, like the life of a computer or the life of a car or the life of a house. There's a length of time that something can fulfill its purpose, and that's considered the life of that entity. So if we look at that, we realize that purpose has to do with life, and it has to do, we apply that to ourselves, to us fulfilling a purpose so that we can now start to embrace the life and purpose. And there's another definition, which means to animate or put life into something. If you animate something, it means to actually put living characteristics or lifelike characteristics into something. So there's an energy component of animating that comes out of a definition of life. Now, we also look at the idioms, which is good. And the idioms are the little sayings. People like, oh man, that guy is the life of the party. Well, who's the life of the party? The life of the party is the person who comes to the party, and through their energy and their activity, they get the party going. They get everybody fired up, and now there's a great party and everybody's having fun. They're not just sitting around like a bunch of wallflowers waiting for someone to throw some energy in there. So we have, again, energy coming into the meaning of life. We have a couple other idioms like I have no life, or man, that guy has got such an incredible life. He's got 6 Ferraris, his own airplane. He goes to Bermuda on the weekends. What a life. Me, I'm working 7 days a week. I can barely pay my bills. You know, I live in a place I don't like. My car doesn't run. I have no life. So we have that concept of life. And again, we have in both those is we have purpose and we have energy involved in that. Now, again, I can talk about this for a couple hours, but I'm going to share with you now what my meaning of life is. So I'm going to flip this over to the screen. Life is the action of putting your energy into your purpose. That's what life is. Now, really, life is really a noun if we're going to look at it. This is an action definition. And really what this definition is a definition of living versus life. And I think that's really what we're talking about. People know they're alive, but they want to be living in their life. They want to feel that action. They want to feel alive, and you feel alive when you're living. I'm going to give you another concept that I dealt with several years ago, and that is the difference between living and existing. And I will tell you that I give myself a test every morning I wake up. And here's the test. Am I more excited to get out of bed and go do what I'm going to do than I am in staying in bed and not confronting the day? And there have been a lot of days of my life, a lot of weeks and a lot of years that I was existing. And if I don't want to get out of bed, it has nothing to do with how tired I am. I can have 2 hours sleep. If I'm excited about what I'm doing and I'm going to go put my energy into my purpose, I want to get out of bed. I want to get out there and do that. If I'm sitting there going, oh God, the day's here again. I got to go deal with all those monkeys at work, and I've got to go get yelled at by somebody, or I've got this horrible situation I've got to go into. You just want to pull the covers back over your head and just go to sleep. You don't want to go out and confront the day. Now, it's interesting because the word existing is the root word of be. Now, the Beatles gave us a song called Let It Be. And when I first heard that, I'm going to pop out of the screen here for a second so I can talk to you. When I first heard that, I was thinking it meant let it, don't bother it. Don't bother it. Don't mess with it. Let it be. Just let it be. What it means is let it exist. That's what it means. If you're going to let something be, let it exist. Don't interfere with its existence. But here's the interesting thing with the word existence. The root word in Greek that existence comes from is to stand. There's no action in existence. You're just standing there. You're existing. Whereas living is imbuing energy into your purpose in life. There is action in living. And there's a lot of four-letter words that are associated with existing. Words like hope, words like slow, words like wait. I'm waiting for a check to arrive. I hope it comes today so I can go do something. You're waiting all the time. You're hoping. You're going slow. No, living is hot, it's fast, it's passionate, you're moving all the time. There's not a lot of sleep in living. So let's tie living now around into finding your purpose. Okay, so I have a formula for living, and this is where I'm going with this talk today. My formula for living is this: you have my energy that I'm putting into my purposes. And I want to make this clear. Purposes. We don't have one purpose. And this is going to be my next talk. We have many purposes in life. And trying to boil life down to one purpose, I think, is a major mistake, because we miss so much of life. We're trying to boil it down to one purpose. It's like eating one food, listening to one type of music. Okay. Putting my energy into my purpose equals me living. Very simple. My energy into my purpose equals me living. You know what I forgot to do? Apologize for that. Forgot to share the screen. So let's do that. There we go. My energy into my purpose equals me living. There. There's the formula. So when I look at that, and I'm going to tell you what I did, is I sat down, this was years ago. I sat down because I was very frustrated with my life. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I'd had a number of jobs. I was good at a lot of them, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't living the life I wanted to live at all. So I sat down and I did an exercise. And this is the exercise I did. I came up with this myself. I sat down and I came up with what I considered the 10 best days of my life. Now you can pick whatever number you want. I happened to just start writing down what I considered the best days of my life, and I wrote down what I considered to be the worst days of my life. And I'm going to give you another way to look at this. List the 10 days or 20 days, whatever it is for you, that you felt alive. You remember that time. You felt so alive. You were so excited about what you were doing. It was like life was great. And then I want you to write down 10 days that you felt basically dead. You felt like you had no future. You felt like this is, what am I doing? This existence is horrible. I hate this. And then look at them with your energy, your purposes, and you living. What part of that was out? When you were feeling alive, were you putting your energy into your purposes? And what was the purpose you were putting your energy into? And here's what I've experienced when I felt the most dead. I was putting a ton of my energy into somebody else's purpose, not my purpose. The other thing that can happen is you can have a purpose and you're not putting any energy into it. And you feel dead because you're not moving towards your purpose in life. You may know what it is. Maybe you want to be a musician, but you're not doing it. And you feel dead. All you got to do is play the guitar. Pick up your guitar and start strumming some notes. Get together with a buddy and start jamming some music or something. Sit down and start doing what you want to do. Start putting some energy into it. And sometimes that can just literally start with, you want to feel better, start walking around the block, put some energy into your life, and put some energy into accomplishing what you want. You start to come alive. So what I did, I sat down and I looked at the days I felt most alive. I was most excited about living and what I was doing. And I sat down and looked at the days that I hated what I was doing and, felt like I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. I started to look at, well, what were the similarities or dissimilarities with those? What components were there when I felt great? What components were there when I felt horrible? And then I started to isolate out what made me feel good. And every time I found a day I really felt like I was alive, I was imbuing energy in my purpose. Now I had to look at what my purpose was. What was I doing? What kind of energy? What was that purpose? And how does that align to the things I want to do in my life? So your message, or excuse me, my message to you today is that you will feel most alive, and let's look at this in speaking, you will feel most alive on stage when you're imbuing energy into your purpose and sharing that with the audience. And I shared with you in the last video I had, one of my purposes in life is to share what I've learned, so maybe somebody doesn't have to struggle with everything that I struggled with. So I put energy into that. Quite honestly, these videos are not just to put one out every week, continuing like this. It takes some energy. It takes some dedication to do that. I have the purpose of doing it and I put energy into it. And I always feel good after I get a video out. And sometimes I put one out and I'm a little nervous going, oh, what's going to happen? Maybe they aren't going to like that one. Yeah, that happens. And then I get somebody who writes me back and said, gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you so much. And I go, oh, I achieved my purpose. But what am I doing? I'm putting energy into my purpose. So your task today, if you're struggling with this, and many of you listening to this may have this wired already. And if you do, that's great. If you don't, sit down and do a little self-analysis. Look at what makes you feel alive. Look at what you hate, makes you feel dead. Compare those two, isolate out the components in it. And that's your first step to identifying your purpose. Next week, we're going to get into how to really go about nailing your purpose in life and what's involved with that. And I will see you next week because it's my purpose to be there next week for you.